It's summer outside. The sun is at high noon. Booming is not an option because we're out in the middle of the hills. So we have to mic up an outdoor outfit. We're gonna use, just face that way for a second. We might be able to use a waistband near the bottom, probably tape on the skin in the front. So the tricky thing about an outfit with a gap between the top and the bottom, we can't actually put a transmitter down below because at some point in some angle, you're gonna see a wire going across. And even if you use beige colored skin tape, it's still gonna be a different shade and it'll 100% get picked up. So I think what we're gonna do is we're gonna put it on your back, kind of near the top. So we're gonna try and use a popper pouch from Ursa to hide a transmitter. So in this case, I'm gonna actually use the vertical orientation for this, and the antenna is gonna be touching the skin, which isn't usually ideal for range reception, but for hiding the transmitter, that's kind of our option. And it just snaps on, and it will be pinching the cloth a little bit. Workability of this is dependent on whether or not her hair will be up or not. We're gonna try this out though and see how well it works. So now if you want to spin to face towards me, the ideal place for a mic is always kind of right around the sternum area. We have fairly tight fabric that won't do well if we poke a safety pin through it, so I'm not gonna use a foamy. Instead, I'm just gonna use tape right below the fabric onto skin right below where the fabric stops. So I'm gonna be using Ursa soft strips, which is basically pre-cut short strips of stretchy moleskin tape, and this is hypoallergenic. So I've just cut a small piece off this tape to then turn it into a bit of a moleskin sandwich, which I'm using a white mic for demonstrative purposes, but usually I would try and find the closest color that would match either the skin or fabric that it's gonna be resting on. So what I'm gonna do is place a small piece on the back of the mic, and then I'm gonna stick that onto the bigger piece so that the mic capsule is touching the tape, so it won't be touching skin, and then the whole thing will move as a unit, and the only possibility of rustle would be fabric touching the capsule itself. And to get around that, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna find a bit where the fabric is away from the chest a small bit, and that's where the mic capsule is gonna move, or is gonna sit rather. Pass this up the bottom and just pull it at the top for me. I always want to give it to whoever's going to wear the mic with the moleskin still on, so it's not going to stick on the way into or out of clothing. So I'm going to pull the backside off, and if you can just pull the top of the fabric down and actually let it rest for just a second. So what we want to do, if you face this way a little bit, keep an eye on roughly where the fabric ends, and you want to have a small margin just below that. So this is roughly where I want the top of the tape to end. Okay, so if you can pull it back down again for me. So I'm going to go right here. And let's pull that down and then just let it rest. So now we're just going to tuck the cable kind of along the way towards the back. So if you can do exactly what you're doing and then spin that way a little bit. There's going to be a lot of excess cable, which in this case, I'm actually going to unplug it from the transmitter and reroute it so it's staying underneath the fabric the entire time. Unplug, pass this up like that. And we do have a lot of stretchy material to hold the cable from falling out. But if there's any concern that it might come out due to a lot of movement, you can always wrap up the cable with some of the band or a twist tie or tape or whatever's most appropriate at the time. So here's the extra cable, wrap around my fingers, and I'm just gonna tuck it right back in this little area of the outfit. Okay, so we can let the hair back down. Now, if you don't mind giving us a demo, you can tell us about the last time you went hiking.
Well, I was already like 3/4 of the way up, so I had to finish it, but I did not like it.
So in a situation like this, I'm actually using the fabric of the clothing itself as my wind protection. The capsule is fully exposed, so if wind does go up and over and through like any kind of a clothing or air gap, there will be some low frequency rumble. A way that you can get around that is you can add, well in this case I'm actually going to try adding on a small plush cover onto the mic. These are also from Ursa and they are developed for specific mics. So this one is actually for a COS-11. It's a low profile sleeve. So these are sometimes handy for even just changing the color of a mic if you only have one option, because this one's black, there's also a white and a beige one. The mic we're using is white for demonstrative purposes, but if you will see the capsule, this will help you hide it in different kinds of fabric. So I'm actually gonna pull the tape off. If you can just give me quick access to the front here, just pull in the front a little bit. I'm gonna take the mic out. I'm gonna add the plush sleeve on top. And that should already be making a big difference to any crosswinds. The other advantage to doing this as well is you have an additional barrier to rustle. So depending on how much clothing or wind noise there is, it may or may not help you with that as well.
Well, because I was super hot and sweaty, it was kind of nice.
When you were walking around, there was times where your hair was actually blowing off to the side, and I could very clearly see the transmitter popper pouch just right there in plain sight. So another option you can do is work with the fabric to use it as your mic holder. So if you want to spin around and face that way for a moment, I'm going to remove the popper pouch, and instead it's going to sit just as is in the same area right down here that we have tucked the excess cable. So I'm going to remove the transmitter from the pouch, and I'm just going to go along with the shape of the clothing, and I'm going to put it right down here. And now it's actually a lot more invisible now. If you want to do a little 360, just show, yeah, it's completely disappeared. There's only a very small bump right down here, but unless you have a tight shot on the actor's back, I don't know why that would ever be visible. The only concern with this is a lot of physical activity might jostle loose. So for this test, you might actually do a slight jog, maybe to the end of that rock there, and come right back.
Okay.
Okay, so now if you want to spin to face away again for a sec. So we've got no antenna, no aerial showing, so that's definitely an option that you could use for this.